All right. So, what do you do to empower your staff, and why do you do it? Why is it important?
Oh, that's a multifaceted question. Um, the first thing that I do, I guess I'll tell you what the process is, and then it'll kind of make a little bit better sense. I look at my staff. When I first came in, I looked at who was here, where their strengths were, how I could utilize that in my job. And that way, there's a few things that would happen. First of all, I'm giving them some of my perceived power so that I'm not all almighty. I'm giving them authority to do things that we've decided are mapped out together as a group. It's not just me dictating, because when you dictate, you're going to lose probably half or more of your staff, because people don't like to be told what to do. They like to be asked how to do it, because we have so many creative minds. And another big point to that is that as an administrator, I have to recognize my own weaknesses. And that's hard to do, because sometimes we like to hide those things because we're afraid somebody's going to know that we don't know everything, or that we don't know how to do that. But I've learned over the years as I've aged, the more ready a person is to, I guess, expose yourself as to what you are, the better it is for everybody around them. And I'll say exactly why. Because as much as you think you can hide something, people are going to know. For instance, Mr. Dan behind the camera on the other side would tell you that she could come into my office at any given day and it would be complete disarray, total disorganization, planning stuff. I'm terrible at. I can plan, but to keep it organized. So what I do is I quickly scan, figure out who's going to be organized. Mr. Dan is very good at all of this stuff. I'm going to use that strength of hers to balance my weakness. And then perhaps Mr. Dan would come into my office someday and need a little bit of wisdom. So I might have that human side to me and actually listen to what she's saying to me, not thinking of my answer before she's finished and poo-poo her out of my office so I can get some work done. People have to trust you, and that has to be earned. And it can't be earned when you're dictating to people all the time. So getting back to that, I find when you give people power and you trust in their skill set, they will in turn also trust in their own skill sets. And they'll learn that they are very capable, because that's one of my strengths, is being able to look at an individual and say, that person would be very good at this, or that person is going to connect well with that child that I can't reach. So you're always thinking that way as an administrator, but if you're not unwilling to utilize that person's strengths, you're dead in the water, because you're basically stifling their growth as a professional. Your professional learning amongst the staff and your building would build exponentially, because you're sharing and seeing it. It's being modeled all the time, not just one person. Because who knows, I could be completely wrong with my philosophy on one thing, or my ideals of the way things should be. But if I got 5, 10, 15, 20 heads in there saying, let's think about this, here's what I think, here's what I think, here's what I think, and you just, that part you can kind of just listen to and say, okay, let's decide which are the best ideas, or the ideas that would fit best to this situation. Then you narrow it down, and it's still everybody's input all the time. We've had kindergarten teacher come in and resolve an issue for a grade 5 teacher. Just came up with an idea or a strategy, but you have to be willing to do that. Another thing is my EAs in my building. There's no titles in here. There's no teacher EA title. We go into meetings. Everybody's input is important. And it took me a while to establish that with my EAs in my school, because they couldn't understand why they were being invited to meetings. And then when I asked them to speak, they were very intimidated, because teachers have all this knowledge and all this background. But what they started to learn about themselves was, as they began to give input, was that they were on an equal frame. And they actually had some better strategies than we did as a teaching staff. So I had my custodian pointed out one last year, a child that fell through the cracks with our staff. We had no idea this child was struggling. The custodian comes in and says, listen, I think that this kid is blah, 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 and could probably need some counseling. And I go, okay. And I didn't dismiss her. So I just started watching the child, and I started talking to the child, and I went, oh my Lord, was she ever bang on? But she felt free enough to come to me and give that opinion. And I didn't say, no, go wash the floor. You don't know what you're talking about. Thank you very much. I'm going to investigate that. So allowing that to happen, and not allowing it, basically demanding that that happen in your building, because you are a team. And I've never lost my focus on that since I've been an administrator. I'm one cog in that wheel, and it's not the cog up here that makes the wheel unbalanced. It's part of that wheel. And everybody knows that when they give me input, I'm going to listen to it, and I'm just going to have an opinion, one opinion in that group. And I'm not going to override anything unless it's told to me by my superiors, or I absolutely know 100% sure that this is going to be an issue for another reason. So that maybe my staff isn't privy to. That would be the only time I would take control and say, no, this is how we're doing this. Because you start doing that, people don't have ownership, and they're out the door when that bell rings, or 20 minutes after the bus, or whatever it is. But this staff, I'm usually going, get home. Right? You remember that. So again, keeping that human quality. When somebody comes in, oh my gosh, my uncle is passed away and I don't have any bereavement time. Well, this is off the record, right? We just had a little discussion. Basically, yeah, well, maybe this was your whatever, a closer relationship or whatever it happened to be, and we're going to make this work for you. Or I'm going to work things around so people can cover, because I know we're not supposed to do that so much, but this person covers for this person covers for that person, and that way it's equal, fair, equitable. Everybody feels that they're appreciated, and one person isn't always getting something for nothing. So anyway, I think that's it, kind of it in a nutshell. I mean, you know, Brenda still walks in the room and says, that's my admin assistant, by the way, you need this done, you got to do that, and this has to be done on time. Get to it. This is my admin assistant telling me what to do, because I need to be told what to do, and I recognize that. And that is the toughest part. I've had staff members walk into my office and say, you need to go home. And I'm going, pardon me, you're grumpy today, you're upset with the kids, you're short answers with the staff. Why don't you just go home and start fresh tomorrow? And what do? See you later, get up, tell my secretary I'm leaving, and come back, just like my staff member suggested I should. And one last thing that I will say, and this really gives a lot of empowerment, but you're just sitting there when administrators are evaluating teachers, you have a lot of power, and they're very afraid a lot of times for no reason, for very little, if any reason. Teach with her every day, and then when I come in to evaluate her, she goes all to pieces. So I had to hide my clipboard and take little notes, but she knew anyway.
Yeah.
So getting back to that, being able to where was I going with that? Empowerment, yes. But I had we were talking about people listening. Oh yes, and being able to, at the end of the year, this was the thing I was getting at, was I've had principals tell me I'm absolutely insane for doing this, but I think it really bodes well for the teamwork and the trust and the building up of your staff members. I have staff members come in at the end of the year, and I ask them, what could I be doing differently? And what do you think I need to do to change for the better? And it's pretty hard to sit there and listen to the staff members tell you, and a lot of times you already know, but to hear it, that it's recognized by somebody and you need to make this change. Now you can either decide, yeah, I know that needs to be changed and do nothing about it. Or you can say, yep, that needs to change, and then you try. And if the staff members feel that you've listened to them about yourself and your inadequacies, and you're actually trying to change, that really draws in a lot of loyalty in an honest way.
Yep.
So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Anything for you?
No, thank you.